Hello everybody, my name is Parker Logue, reporting with the Seneca Valley Morning Announcements crew. Obviously, our job is a bit hard to perform nowadays with COVID-19 and the restrictions, so we thought it would be best to release videos over a topic that we are all passionate about, and something that is critically important nowadays, media literacy. So without further ado, here's our first topic.
Media bias is a growing issue our world faces, especially in the United States. It is a problem we likely will not be able to fix and only looks to be getting worse. According to the Gallup and Knight Foundation, 45% of Americans see a great deal of bias in news media, and that number continues to grow. The same source also says the majority cannot name a source that reports news objectively. The most common type of media bias is political bias, which happens when the owner of a big corporation has an agenda and wants to spread his or her ideas to the public. Take the two most watched news networks in America, for example. Fox News and CNN. Fox News is widely known for having far-right political views, while CNN is known to have far-left political views. The problem with this is it makes news stories either hyped up or watered down, depending on which agenda it follows. For example, the Black Lives Matter protests. Fox News labeled them as dangerous riots with fire and shootings, and CNN labeled them as peaceful protests with the only violence coming from far right-wing supporters, when in reality it's likely somewhere in the middle. This causes disinformation and, most importantly, division. As of now, this issue seems unfixable.
Hello ladies and gentlemen. This just in. Breaking news. This story will be the most important that you will hear all day. That story, of course, is about sensationalism. Sensationalism is the intentional effort to make a news story seem much more important than it is, all for the sake of pushing an agenda or even just garnering clicks. One example of sensationalism in history was in the very late 19th century, the Spanish-American War. A war that was not started by some surprise attack or a straining of relations. The American people were literally riled into war with reports from newspapers across the country telling of Spanish atrocities in Cuba. Atrocities that were completely made up by the newspapers at the time. In the modern world, every single storm is the storm of the century. Every political candidate will either bring eternal destruction or 1,000 years of peace. But sensationalism has very real-world effects, and we should all be careful of what we believe. The things that have happened in history are already starting to repeat themselves.
As stated by Google, fearmongering is the deliberate action of causing widespread public fear about a specific topic, and it is more important to recognize in the modern day than ever. Fearmongering has existed for decades, however, it is proven to be constantly growing in today's media. Amid the early days of the coronavirus crisis, a widespread racist fear of people from Asian countries due to coronavirus's origin in Wuhan, China, was perpetuated among many news sources across the globe. Also, alarming news about Earth's climate is spread online that warn of humanity dying in the 2030s due to rapidly increasing carbon emissions. Though both climate change and the coronavirus are not issues to take lightly, many news networks draw upon the more dramatic aspects of these issues. Fearmongering is a harmful but effective tool used by some media to mislead and misinform their audience, perhaps originally with good intent. However, it leads to extreme views that ultimately hurt the situation.
Consuming your news in a bubble, per se, can really hurt your worldview and shift your ideology in ways that you might not want, because when you're only emphasizing one side of the argument in how you customize your feed or what news articles or stations you look at, that can really change how you view the world. And so it's really important to diversify what you see in the news from different perspectives, left and right, and different political and just general ideologies. Actually, according to Washington Post and BBC, these things aren't as dangerous as it used to be, because with modern technology, people can customize their feeds, but when it comes to actually seeing the news, it's a lot easier to stumble across a different viewpoint and interact with people with different viewpoints. And so it's actually a really cool development over the past few years that people don't really appreciate, that you can diversify your viewpoint even more. Because back in the day, people would only see stuff from, say, they would only read the New York Times, or they'd only watch CNN. And sure, that still happens today. But with the advent of social media and the internet, there's a lot more different viewpoints you're getting exposed to. And so while it can be dangerous to create an echo chamber, it's actually not that common compared to how it used to be.